A color demon possessed me at some point in the process of working on the art for today's video, and so I'm warning you in advance. Hi, hey, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by to my little corner of the internet, and in today's video, I am going to be gushing over trying something new and creating fan art for the new chaos design for the Hades 2 demo that was released last Monday as of the Saturday release. So, Saturday release of this video. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you have the time to watch all the way through, I would really appreciate it. I do 2 sketches, so they fill the entire rest of the spread that you're seeing right here. And I really like to share my finished projects with all of you guys. If you get creative alongside me, I would love to know if you're drawing or doing anything fun. Let me know down in the comments if you feel up for it, if you're open to tagging me in any of your creative pursuits. I would also be happy to support you guys like you guys are supporting me. After all, the community aspect is the absolute greatest part of being on YouTube. If you're interested in my personality, you want to see more, subscribe, like, dislike if you dislike, and let's get into the actual plot, because I have stuff to say. So, Hades, the original, is like one of my greatest art inspirations of all time. It came out in 2018, which is the year that I picked up art again. I've discussed it a couple of times on my channel that I was in a severely bad headspace. I was not in a good point in my life at all in 2018, and things were just not looking good for me. And I refound my passion for art largely because of my extreme love for other artists. I was consuming so much art content. I loved just indulging in art, viewing it, worshiping it, appreciating it, supporting artists. And so when it came time to really make a decision to change for the better with where things were going for my mental health at the time, art was my go-to decision. Hades was one of those art styles. The style of the game was one of those things that really pushed my inspiration and inspired me to create and actually pursue an artistic style and work for something, right? Hades 2, Lowish, Viria, gosh, I wonder how they're doing. I really need to check back up. Drawing with Waffles, artists like that, right? There was a large swath of artists that really piqued my inspiration, that I was incredibly passionate about the works of at the time, truly. I never have just appreciated one particular art style, so I had a lot of inspiration coming in, but Hades 2, Hades the original game in 2018 was one of those sources where I really truly was like captured by the art style. It was something that really enticed me in ways I didn't know how to explain, and so while it wasn't the type of art I tried to emulate early on in my kind of artistic journey, it has always been up there in terms of being the art that I have been most enticed by and just really just never getting tired of. The game never stops being gorgeous to me, right? So when Hades 2 was announced, I believe at the 2022 Steam Awards, it might have been 2021 at this point, back in December, I believe. I was watching it live with my little brother, and I was like, whatever game this is that they're showing to us right now, it has to be good. Like, there's no way this isn't a gorgeous game and needed immediately, right? Like, the announcement for the game, the trailer, wow, it is amazing. It's still probably my all-time favorite game trailer that I have ever seen. Really, honestly, just chef's kiss, divine, great. So I have been waiting like 2 years for this demo to come out, and it exceeds expectations. When I saw that it was a demo and I purchased it, I believe I mentioned that I justified it as a graduation gift to myself. I was not expecting it to be like as much content as the original Hades game. I've played a few demos that are pretty small, it's just giving you a taste for what you're looking to support, a taste to see if you're going to enjoy it, maybe testing bug fixes, and seeing it as like a beta. I wasn't expecting it to be basically like a whole game already done with more to come, and honestly, it runs better than Elden Ring did upon release, so I have been really enjoying playing through and just finding the content. And I think I've played like 15 hours in the past 2 weeks. I have had to do finals and my actual paid job, and then my full day of commencement. And the 11th, my graduation, I didn't attend it. Unfortunately, it ended up having issues and not being able to be held at the original location, and I wasn't comfortable going to the location where my ceremony was originally going to be held, but I attended my brother's and I had a really nice day with my partner, and all that. So I've been pretty busy the past 2 weeks. I've only played like 15 hours, but only played like 15 hours. That is a luxury, but you know what I mean. This game is going to have hundreds of hours of time from me with how much I love the original game, how much I've played the original game, and how much more content is already promised by the developers, and I'm super, super stoked. And when I got to Chaos for the first time, I pulled out my phone, I took a picture and sent it to my partner, and I was like, I'm sorry, who is he? Who? Honestly, gorgeous. And the way they kind of tied it into the original design, but made it something entirely new, I am in love with Chaos's new design. And I think talking about why I'm so ecstatic about it might be best served when more of the actual sketch is finished, but I just, I can't, right? So, already having an extreme love for Chaos and its kind of existence within Greek mythology, Chaos as an entity, as the primordial being before creation, before the gods and all of that, was already something that I really, really liked. The concept of this entity who is basically the existence of life before life is something that's truly, truly enticing. It's one of those things in Greek mythology that's just has so much potential for gorgeous character design, so much room to play with, and there's a lot of leeway when you're working with a baseline like that to really go extreme and indulge in a character concept. Chaos doesn't have as many stories about them as, characters like Zeus, so you have more stuff that kind of ties you down. And so I very much love the original design and the new design, but I also have my original character who is the incarnate of the goddess of chaos, Eris, who is also in the game. And we have one thing that I really want to do, like a short on my channel at some point, is comparing kind of my Eris to the Eris of Hades 2, because they're drastically different character designs, and I think it's super, super fun to see how different people perceive the exact same thing, right? They're the exact same god, right, that they are meant to be, and they are drastically different, and I'm stoked by it. I love it so much, right? And the characterization of their chaos versus mine, well, their Eris versus mine, gods of chaos, not my, I don't have a character named Chaos, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just I'm in love, really. Greek mythology was my thing. I was one of those Greek mythology girlies in middle school. Percy Jackson was my all-time favorite book series. I was reading them as they came out since I was old enough to read them, which was pretty young. I think the first one came out my birth year, though, so I definitely had catching up to do. I think The Lost Hero was where I was able to start reading as they were coming out, I believe. But really, honestly, Greek mythology has always been one of those major, major passions in my life, something that I really enjoy. I love Norse mythology as well. I have OCs based on that. And so, truly, I'm stoked. I'm in love. I've had kind of a rough start to the year, so something as remarkable as Hades 2 coming out and getting to indulge in it is something that I just really needed, you know what I mean? It is certainly kind of the highlight that's come from the year so far for me. It's okay, this is a saving grace. If I look back on this year, this is going to be one of the things where I'm but at least Hades 2 came out, and so that's something that I at least get to come away from the year with. But for the preliminary discussion of Chaos's new design, I'm not going to talk too much about one of my other topic points until the more full body sketch later, so I'll have two sections listed as like Chaos Chat 1 and Chaos Chat 2, just so that it's easy to find. I do timestamp some of my videos, I promise. But one of the things that I really, really liked about Chaos, like top up, was the bisexual hair. I don't even know how to articulate how much I love a undercut with long, like, body length swoopy hair. I didn't know it was something that I needed in my life until I saw it, and I was like, whoa, colored undercut thing? It looks like an undercut. It might just be more intensely pulled up in the back than it is on the top, but the swoop, the stick out, gorgeous. But when it comes to the actual design of Chaos as a character and the kind of decisions that was made from the first design to the second design, I very much love that they stuck with a very simple color palette, but chose to add those more super vibrant accent colors that really capture the eye and are made even more vibrant and wonderful by how dull the rest of the color palette is and how little there is to take away from it. Chaos having this white suit to them, the very shiny gold accents that are so Greek. So Greek, so lovely. And the collar, the golden collar that looks like a turtleneck with a open front white suit jacket with large gold kind of the outlet bit. That doesn't make sense. It's the part that folds out of the suit and has the fun cuts in it, to a dark, spacey, void chest with the stone in the middle. It'll make more sense when it's colored, I promise. But the primordial being and partially presented as almost space in a suit. In the original design, they had a lot of vacancy. The art style really lends itself to having harsh, solid black shadows, where it's like, oh, maybe there's something there, and it's just in shadow. Maybe there's nothing there at all, and there's nothing to see, and thus that's where the shadow is coming from. The original Chaos design, as I will put up on screen right around here-ish somewhere, is a very skeletal, skinny, kind of sickly, masculine torso that cuts off at the ribs and leads to kind of a vacant, empty body surrounded by, this sounds so gross when I'm describing it, but I promise it's really, really neat, what is almost like the intestine tract with human faces on it. That sounded disgusting. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know how else to describe it. It's almost like, you know, when those people, by the way, I think that wearing, like, animal fur things is gross. Like, it grosses me out. I'm very bothered by people wearing animal skins. If that's your jam, go for it. It gives me the ick personally. So think like Cruella de Vil and her Dalmatian coat thingy and weird, like that, but like it looks like human intestines with faces trying to come out of it. That's it. For the record, if you're kind of vaguely distressed listening to my voiceover while drawing, it makes sense when it's on screen, I promise, and it's really cool art, I swear. It just sounds icky. It doesn't look wet, if that's any assurance to the people who are just listening. But having that kind of voidness to them that is actually depicted in the chest, you can see the sparkles that are like the stars in the night sky. That is something that I think was a really, really, really cool thing to do. I love the decision to have them be like the primordial space that they are supposed to represent internally. Like, it feels like Chaos is quite literally wearing a human cloak and kind of trying to blend in with the perception of what they're supposed to be perhaps for mischief, perhaps for their chaos, whilst being made up of that primordial matter. Like, they are being filled out by that kind of space. They're very much not human, even in the superhuman presentation. And the long hair, I don't know who I need to tell this to and how many times I need to say it, but masculine presenting people with long silver hair is just something that I think is super, super beautiful. I love it as a character design concept. It's my jam. I dig it. If you have recommendations for characters that have that in it alone, I would love to know, because it's gorgeous. It's one of my all-time favorite character design decisions. I can't help it, literally. I just find it so stunning. So Chaos was always gonna win bonus points for that alone. Partial editing, Rain. All of that clacking you're hearing is me talking with my hands while holding my mic. I will try not to move at all here on out to avoid you hearing the cord hitting things. I promise I do my best, but I am a hand talker. So, coming back around to Chaos's new design, I have read the controversies about Chaos and their new design, and how many people feel like it doesn't kind of fit the original purpose as much. It doesn't have the mystique. It doesn't quite touch on the essence of them being kind of this primordial being, and how they seemed more agender originally. I do kind of disagree with the sentiment that they appeared more agender in the original game. I think that they didn't have any feminine qualities at all in the original kind of character design, and so when people are saying the kind of genderless quality that the original game has, I do think that this is a little bit more non-binary in presentation and can be interpreted two ways. While they have a more feminine face and kind of a feminine hairstyle, quote unquote, to compared to the original game, they do have a blank space for their chest. There is nothing there to indicate some sort of feminine features or masculine features. You really don't know. It is a primordial void. However, in the original game, they very clearly had a masculine chest, kind of a masculine physique. So I do think that this one actually does hit non-binary a little bit more effectively than the original game did. It definitely, Chaos felt very, very masculine to me in the original game. Now, it's fair to note that Chaos is kind of thought to have been more male in original Greek myth, as opposed to kind of some later discussions of them maybe being feminine or gender fluid in some capacity, but they are supposed to be, at the end of the day, the primordial being that all life came from. So I do think that this more kind of non-binary approach does kind of hit the mark a little bit better than the original. I, at no point in the original game, interpreted Chaos's original design as being anything other than masculine in presentation. Maybe that's because of the physique, the voice having a bit more of a kind of deeper undertone than perhaps anticipated. They very much came off as a brooding, more masculine kind of character to me. I do think this hits non-binary a little bit more effectively. They do actually have some feminine features to them that holds that kind of agender quality that feels appropriate for Chaos and is being complained about. I have other kind of discussion points I really want to get into that just don't make as much sense with the kind of upper body shot. It won't make a whole lot of sense with my fan art either, but I will put a really solid picture of their full body when I talk about it. But I do have more arguments against kind of the completely missing the mark kind of sentiment. I understand why people think the original one had more of that brooding quality that seems more befitting of a character such as Chaos, the primordial originator of the existence of life. I totally understand that. I personally really, really love the design. I think it also makes sense with a lot of the plot potential that is coming from kind of where the game is going. You know, we were at the end or in the middle of the last game, we were reestablishing Chaos's relationship with their daughter Nyx. I believe they were consistent with Greek lore and that they were kind of maybe father, mother thingy and daughter, but we did reunite them, and we are kind of, I don't think this is a spoiler, maybe plug your ears for like 5 seconds, but we are defeating Kronos, right? Who has taken control of the underworld in Hades 2. Spoiler over, if that was a spoiler. I don't think it is. You learn it instantly, I think. It's really the first thing you learn in the game. That's like your mission, right? Similar to how in Hades 1 your mission was to find and break to the surface to locate your mother, right? You find about is literally the first thing you learn. So I hope no one's too surprised by that. But so Kronos is now involved. There are problems arising, and so I feel like it almost, in a sense, makes sense that characters are changing their appearance to an extent. There is a war happening. They are perhaps preparing to engage in war. I don't know if Chaos's original hefty body with, like, human intestine thingies was effective for combat. I don't know if Chaos is going to be involved. I don't know how Chaos is meant to exist within the game. I don't know if Nyx aided them in making any decisions in their presentation. I don't know if they have lost the capacity for some power even while in their strong realm while things are happening. I feel like there's so much lore that can explain why Chaos isn't in their original form and why things have happened in kind of the whole character design overall that we just don't quite know yet, or I haven't gotten to, or am not satisfied with assigning any particularly strong judgment on with where the game is at in development. I think that there is a lot of potential for perhaps weakening of the realm, needing a different form, having trouble manifesting certain things, needing it for certain capacity spells. I don't know, I do think that the inclusion of something resembling the amygdala flower, which you get from Chaos's realm, in their hair is absolutely lovely. And so I do understand why some people are upset. I think the homage to the original character design that I'll discuss later is very, very lovely. I do truly think that this was a well done character design despite the kind of complaints. I think I personally don't have too many strong opinions about how different people present Greek and Norse gods in particular, just because they are the mythologies I'm most familiar with, so long as they are at least respecting the original source material. And I don't think that this design is so far off and so dismissive of even their original design that they made that it is something that truly upsets me or bothers me about the decisions for Chaos. I really like it, and I'm beyond stoked to learn about the lore decisions behind it. I want to know more about certain components of the character design, and I like the primordial body. I like the idea that Chaos is the primordial space themselves, that they are made up of the very matter that they existed in and were before the entirety of life after them, their children, the chthonic gods, all of that. I think that kind of primordial physical inside where we don't know if it's solid or if it's just space or what it is really, really interesting. And I'm really enticed by the design. I have a lot of questions about it. I'm very intrigued. And so I'm very open to the decisions that were made, although I do understand why some people... I do agree that the original design was more intimidating and scary, and it had more of a mystique to it than this one does that made you feel the need to revere and maybe respect Chaos more. Chaos as an entity that is so ancient and high power is very, very easy to forget with this design on first glance, just because the original one held so much control and command over you. It had a very towering silhouette, but I'm enticed and I really like it. So I'm not bothered by it. I am also just really into the lore. When we have mythology that's as old as Greek and Roman and Norse and all of that jazz, it's hard for me to just not get excited to see different interpretations and how people process different thoughts and opinions on the matter. And the first one was so well researched and so dedicated to the mythology and everything that I don't believe that the decisions that were made without a lot of thoughtful considerations. And so I'm really interested. I would love to watch like an hour-long interview on Chaos's character design alone. One thing that I really, really hope comes from the Hades 2 game is perhaps an art book. I would lose it for an art book of Hades 1 and Hades 2. I think they would be absolutely lovely. One of my favorite things to look at from other artists is their concept sketches and all of that fun jazz. So I'd be super stoked if they ever were willing to create something like that. I would be I would be so into it. And I'd love to see how they came to this decision, and the original decision especially. I think I finally have enough actually drawn that I can start talking about it and not fall behind or catch up to the video too much. I originally, you've already seen it if you're watching the video with your eyeballs and not just listening to me. I didn't like the way the highlighter looked with just the graphite, so I went in with a brush pen. I'm not super proficient with a brush pen, and this weird little pen that came with a little notebook that I needed for something, or my brother got it and didn't like the pen, or I don't even know where it came from. It's like a felt tip, not super great. I'm holding it actively on the screen. No, I'm not. I'm holding my Tombow. I can't tell. And I went over it all with basically one line weight. Yeah, line weight. And I came back around after I had erased that under graphite to kind of fix up mistakes, darken up some areas, and start plotting out how I wanted to make the design a little bit more indicative of my art style. So I did incorporate things that are very innate to me and how I like to draw, and kind of took my own liberties here and there, but now is kind of my time to figure out where I'm going to shine the most with my kind of tendencies and my habits, and line work is something I'm very passionate about, and I'm definitely not going to approach it totally like how the game did. I'm definitely not working with any material that would allow me to have even half the mindset to do that in my sketchbook with this crusty Tombow pen, honestly. But partway through, I just decided that the purple was not jiving with me, pulled out some more brush pens and highlighters, and started judging things up. You know, this is my sketchbook, and so I do very much believe in and take the liberty of, if a sketch is not to my liking, I can literally destroy it, and it will never matter. This isn't a finished illustration. This is my sketchbook. I can do what I want, and so it's very important to me that I go with the flow of things and let my art go how I feel it's appropriate. If my brain says you're going to do this dumb thing, I'm probably going to do it, because I think that's part of the artistic process for me, and sketching is allowing me to make decisions that might be bad for the actual drawing overall, but allowing myself to go through the process of that failure and that mistake, if it is one, or be pleasantly surprised. And I think that's how I at least build my own artistic intuition, by allowing myself to just do what I think is right in the moment and go with the feeling. I can look back at it and say, okay, that was a bad idea. This is probably why I didn't like it. I wouldn't know if I didn't do it, right? So I have my chunky line art. I'm not vibing with everything. The highlighters were feeling too flat. And I just started going through and I started trying to define a bit of where I would want shadow to be, where I would want shadow to cut across, generally following the shadows of the original design. I'm not working with their color palette or anything like that. I'm working with the kind of casual brush pens that I've accumulated over the years, and I'm feeling it out. I'm trying to chunk out shadows and kind of underlay it in a way that I would probably usually do it with hatching, but I'm trying to do it now with a brush pen and kind of figure it out and try something that's very, very different and awkward for me. I'm very reliant on my kind of hatching, my super fine liners to indicate where I want shadows to be. I'm used to drawing lines to kind of break off those things, and now I'm relying on just the color material itself. And I was intimidated and I did not know what I was doing. I felt so stupid. I was like, this is ugly. I am screwed. But I knew at the end of the day I could always go in with liner and try and save it. And if you guys watched me completely fail, then so be it. I'm, there's no such thing as an artist that doesn't create not wonderful art. I have a hard time saying bad art because I know that my idea of bad art and what's bad art for me might be something somebody really looks up to. And I'm trying to get out of the habit of saying my art is bad at any particular stage, because if somebody looks at that art and is like, I could never do anything like that, I don't want them to think that aspiring to be even as good as what I consider my not best work is them creating bad work, right? Because we all have our own artistic journey, and I just feel bad, because that's the type of stuff that would make me feel disheartened as a beginner artist, when somebody would be like, I hate this sketch, it's super, super ugly, and I'd be like, I wish I could draw like that. Does that mean my art's bad? Does that mean they'd hate my art? And the answer is no. We're our worst self-critic, and they would never look at somebody's art and be like, that's ugly. And what is almost an exact replica of their bad art created by someone else might be something they really like, because it's not them, and there aren't that expectation that lives inside their head rent-free. So I try to get out of that, but I was not feeling it, to say the least. I was like, I do not know what I'm doing. I don't know how to blend highlighter. Does highlighter blend? ? What am I doing? I still don't know what I was doing, but it was fun. I was having so much fun being confused and just putting stuff where it felt right. And all of this purple, I'm not a purple person, really. It's not a favorite color of mine in particular. I don't really enjoy using it much in my work outside of shadows, and so having it be kind of the centerpiece of color palette had me really excited. Going in with the kind of pens afterwards and darkening up the areas that were now defined a little bit better by the purple, and kind of just trying to get the gist of things, I was having a great time, and it felt very freeing. And I think it's very funny that, like every single year of my college education, the art that I create after my college courses, my college art courses, is the art that I like the most. I just went through an entire art course, and the first time I've made art that I really, really am loving throughout, even the ugly phase where I'm like, is this hideous? I don't know, is a highlighter sketch in my sketchbook, And so I'm feeling very invigorated and refreshed. Finals are over. I am done. My art is mine again. There is no rubric. There is no syllabus, and I can do what I want, and it can be as ugly or not ugly as I decide it should be. And I'm loving it, really, truly. And I hope that you guys are enjoying and going to enjoy summer me, who is more ill. To be very fair, I don't handle the summer well with my chronic illness, but my art is a lot more free, and I generally make my best work in the summer because I am not artistically constrained by my college courses. I'm going into my master's degree this summer, and I will be taking college courses, but I get to make what I want, That's the whole master's degree thing, I'm not confined to any particularly strong standard like I was in my undergrad. So I hope you guys are excited to see where my art goes now that I am actually kind of jiving with my work again. It's been a minute. So this weird brown marker that I'm using in this, I think it said it's peach, but I don't think it's actually the color peach deco brush thingy. I went to my first art supply store with my partner for my graduation, and it's like a paint pen, but not quite, so it's got a fair bit of opacity like a paint pen would, but it's a brush marker. worth the amount of money they cost, I'm not sure. But I was excited. I haven't been in an art supply store before, so I was stoked. And I very much like the color. Do I think you could use literally any peach color? Absolutely. Could you use a peach colored gouache to get almost the exact same effect? Absolutely. If you get very little water in a peachy colored watercolor, you could do this. Or water down very lightly a Holbein gouache? No, not Holbein. What am I thinking? Hemi gouaches. I use Hemi gouaches because I can't mix colors very well. I'm taking color theory, so I might learn how to mix colors soon. So, I really don't think you need supplies quite this expensive. I don't even know how. I didn't spend much money at the art supply store. I just wanted to buy a couple of these pens because I saw them and they looked cool. And so, I don't know if you need them. I think I like them. I'm definitely going to use them all the way through. I might rebuy a color or two because I really like the black one. It's really juicy. And it is better than black watercolor, that I can say with a lot of confidence. And I like it. I like it a lot. It might be better to use a... No, I don't think... I think it is better than a alcohol marker because it doesn't seep into the paper quite as much and spread. It kind of sits on top a bit better, but I'm not sure. But this orangey color, peachy color, definitely could use a watercolor and get a very similar effect. But it is super, super nice. I really, really like this color, and it blended so well with the purple. It is a more yellow toned orange, so it very much is complementing that purple, but still having enough orange to it that it's looking super nice with the blue, yellow enough that it kind of touches that purple complementary, orange enough that it's playing with that blue and looking super, super lovely. Sorry, I didn't state that they were complementary when I said it the first time, and I realized that it might sound silly that I'm saying it, but I think it looks really, really lovely. And then going back over and adding those harsh blacks where I felt appropriate and feeling it out and scribbling them in, it looked so good. I was having such a good time. It was coming together, and I don't know. They look so dapper and snazzy. And I did ultimately decide that I needed to zhuzh up that liner a fair bit. It just wasn't hitting quite how I wanted it to. I do love super harsh, dark liner, and so letting the colors kind of take over quite as much as I was with how it was prior to bringing out the black version of this paint-ish pen thingy that I don't know what it is. I'll put a description in my supply list that I always have in my videos for if you're curious. Bringing out that black one really did kind of make the lines thicker. I don't have a lot of control with brush markers. It's not something I have a huge skill in. I don't have a very good hand. Because my hands are so shaky, I just kind of generally find that I apply pressure a little more firmly than I generally want to. But when it actually comes to using a kind of more careless and freeing approach to my work and really trying to tell myself that I don't care and that this is for my own just exploration, having a brush marker that I kind of almost lack control of allows me to have that lack of care that I need to just let the thing happen. So I ended up with some shadows that were darker than I maybe originally anticipated, but they look so good. That harsh black brick that I basically put under the fold of the jacket collar looks so nice. And honestly, I don't know if I would have thought to make it that big if I was working with any other pen. Probably would have just used a 0.8 micron, or I don't even think I'm using microns at the moment. I don't remember. It's some cheap 0.8 pen. Point marker? Point something? Point liner? I don't even remember. Any liner works as long as it doesn't smudge, right? So, I don't think I would have gone that big, but I really, really like how it looks. And so, I don't know. The I don't know. This just went right. And I think it's perfect. Not actually authentically, unironically perfect, but this was such a good way to close out my semester and enter the summer term where I'm just doing my thing. The white gel pen looks so good on the vibrant colors. It's just nice. And the white dots and the primordial chest. Ugh, I really do love that primordial center to the being. It really just makes me excited. I also want to put my hand in there, right? Because the gem is hovering over it, like it's over that primordial bit, but like, is it floating? Is it levitating in the existence of space? Can you put your hand in there? Is it hollow? Is it solid? I have questions, and I have questions that probably won't be answered, but I want to know. I want to know if I can put my hand in there. Is it cold like space? If I can, is it warm like the inside of a tummy region? I have questions. And I don't know if these are the questions I should be asking, but I have them and I'd really like to know. Needless to say, when I sat down, I had absolutely zero intention of going colorful at all. I don't even think I was really intending to do line art. I just couldn't pass up how pretty the like purple and pink undercutty bit was, and pulled out my highlighters, and then I was like, but it needs some liner, and the next thing I know, my sketchbook has this colorful beast in it. But really, I don't know. I think that's kind of the highlight of art, is like letting it kind of carry you away and just getting lost in the artistic process, just going with the flow, feeling it out, I think that my work is its best when I let art kind of consume me to an extent, right? And I allow the art to just be as it is and not think about anything else, really, honestly. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why art classes tend to just kind of take away my creativity a lot of the time, is I am so concerned about the requirements I need to pass the class and get a good grade that I don't allow myself the creative liberties and the freedom of just letting my mind wander and getting into a flow state with my work, if that makes sense. I think it does. I thought back the sentence and I think I articulated it well. So, Fizzgig, can you not crawl in my closet? We love the cats around here. Biggest supporters are the cats that make my voiceovers harder. But as we're bleeding into the kind of other sketch and moving into that other chaos discussion I wanted to have, I just want to say that I did go back over the other drawing later in the day while my phone was charging and adding some darker spots here and there, going over the lines a bit more, adding more white gel pen here and there. Nothing that particularly detracts away from the original process. I just added stuff here and there. I'll put a picture up at some point during this process. Hopefully I'll get it right in the editing and remember exactly where this is, because this is a pretty long video to like sparse out where my talking happened, unfortunately. Trying to mark it as I go though. I did want to briefly discuss kind of this topic I went over in my first voiceover that got corrupted, is this concept that I do try to avoid fan art on my channel, and I just wanted to touch on it a little bit because I've had this discussion before in an entire video where I had a philosophical conversation about if I make fan art, do people like my art or do people like me because they think I am in allegiance with a fandom that they are in? Do they subscribe to me and follow me and enjoy my content because I am someone who they can rely on for fan art of that particular fandom? And then will they hate me or not value my work anymore when I move past that fandom or don't feel like drawing fan art for it anymore, or when I favor my personal pursuits over it? And so I know I have quite a few subscribers who have their original characters and their original stories, and I was just really curious if any of you do have any thoughts on the matter. How do you feel about fan art, and do you have oppositions to it? In your creation of fan art, if you do you find any negative effects to putting yourself and centering yourself within a fandom? and kind of where people kind of come from and why they then enjoy your content from there. Because as much as I love Hades 2 and the original Hades and the art of it, and I have done fan art in the past, I don't want that to be why people enjoy me. I want them to enjoy my art overall, even my original characters. And so I don't post it a whole lot. I draw it for my own enjoyment and I don't share it as much. And so I was just kind of curious if anybody has any quick thoughts on the matter or long thoughts. I love essays if you want to just pop off down there. On kind of the general topic, and I thought I would put that food for thought out there because I don't think I've drawn fan art on my channel since my video may be about fan art. I'd have to double check, but I don't think I've done a lot. Considering I have an entire sketchbook of Crollo and Phaeton fan art from like 2 years ago, I have not done a lot on this channel. Past me timed this absolutely wonderfully within the framework of my videos. So the Chaos 2 discussion I wanted to have, for a second I thought I messed that up. One thing that I thought was really, really lovely about the character design decision for this one, and is why I'm holding any reservations about if the original was better or not, and those kind of discussions that I mentioned kind of cropping up about the overall design for Chaos in Hades 2 versus Hades 1, is the fact that we have a cycle of life theme presented in Chaos in the Hades 2 design. It very much looks like Chaos is holding their previous design's head in their hand with their spine and vertebrae kind of fading in. And it didn't line up very well in my sketch, especially because I'm working in pen. They have a kind of fetus attached to an umbilical cord coming out of the previous Chaos's mouth, right? And with that, we have kind of death merging into birth, or the old Chaos being a symbol of birth, whilst existing in this youthful kind of more young entity kind of body. And so it shows these like 3 strong stages of life, birth, death, and adulthood. And that was something that I really, really am interested in, and seeing if there is any particularly strong reasoning for that decision that falls into the lore now that Kronos is back. You know, in the original mythology, he was chopped to bits and kind of subjected to eternity in Tartarus for... Tartarus? I think it's pronounced that way. I always kind of read it in my head as tartar, and then I think tartar sauce, and it just goes downhill from there, so I'm not entirely sure. You might want to... Don't trust me on pronunciation of anything. So, but... you know, they're kind of playing with the mythology, you know. Kronos, I don't think comes back at any point. It's almost like Ragnarok, right? Kind of this promise of destruction of the earth, you know, the Mad Titan is back and they're coming to get you. Mad Titan? I think that would be a good way to describe Kronos of all people. I mean, eating your children? Ugh, bro, you're kind of crazy. kind of got questions about you. But I just find this so interesting, and I don't know, I feel like there's too much deeper conversation to have before making particularly firm decisions on if one design is better than the other, because there could very well be very strong lore implications for these decisions, and I'm gonna hold all of my thoughts and hesitations on it until the game is fully released, right? I want to wait until I have all of the content that they intended for us to have in my hands and have played through it before I say, okay, maybe the original design served its purpose a little bit more effectively than this one. And that doesn't mean that both of these designs cannot serve the purpose equally for the games that they were designed for, right? The original Chaos can be the perfect design for Hades 1. Just like this one could be, depending on where the game ends and the overall plot and kind of interactions we have with Chaos from start to finish, this could be the best Chaos for Hades 2. And so I'm holding out my overall final thoughts. Nothing is going to change the fact, though, that I love both designs and I absolutely adore this one. why I didn't draw the original Chaos is because I don't want to draw intestine human face sacks, okay? I just don't want to. I might one day, but I didn't want to then, and I definitely didn't have the ambition for it then either. I certainly, as a brand new beginner artist teaching themselves, trying to conquer some childhood art trauma, was not going to tackle Chaos's design. I did not have that ambition in me, did not have that confidence either. So, there is that to it. But I would be open to doing, I would be open to trying the original Chaos sometime on my own time. But I'm very, very enticed by why we have the original Chaos's head in the new Chaos's hand. I'm very interested to see if and how far the lore will go, if there's a reason for this kind of death and birth component to it, and, I have to pay more attention to my interactions with Chaos, and we haven't seen Nyx yet in the game. Could this be a component of Nyx going missing? We reunited them in the original game. So, I'm very enticed. And so, I just thought it was best that I saved the secondary conversation about the character design that's more at their chest, where I would have to explain the decapitated version of their previous game design, birthing a fetus out of his mouth, just makes more sense with the sketch than saying it without anything on screen in my own hand to create it. And I also kind of left the fetus out. You can hardly see it. It's kind of just a little circle blob there. I don't like fetuses, so, I took some creative liberty. That's a really interesting sentence coming from somebody who loves Bloodborne. I don't like fetuses, but I love Bloodborne. You know what? Maybe that's an odd personality situation I have to conquer. Talk about it in therapy. I don't like fetuses, but, Bloodborne, great game, best game. Despite the fetuses, of course. That joke is not going to fly with probably any of my audience. None of you have probably played and enjoyed Bloodborne, and I just sound like a nut. But that's okay. I don't mind. Bloodborne's a great game. 10 out of 10. Actually, maybe a 9.5 out of 10, just because the color palette's a little drab. But you know what? I also don't like the color palette of Elden Ring. And I like the color palette of Elden Ring for the purposes of Elden Ring less than I like the color palette of Bloodborne for the purposes of Bloodborne. This is a conversation I can have with myself later. I don't need to make you sit through fucking game design color theory and color palettes. That's just mean. But coming into Chaos and all of that, you can see in the top left corner of the page, I had kind of sketched out a sitting position. I forgot I was supposed to make them sitting. I forgot I was going to do a kind of reclined, casual look to it. I don't know where my brain just kind of forgot about it in the process. I guess I just thought soup pants go burr, straight boring pose. And, it's fine. I didn't have a lot of space, and, the feet would have definitely been cut off a fair bit. But I do think that I want to draw maybe Chaos, Undertaker, or Buddha from Records of Ragnarok in a chair sometime. Or just make a character with long hair for the sake of drawing them cross-legged in a kind of very bougie business chair. I want the flowing hair over a nice leather chair looking very authoritative and kind of in that power pose is something that I very much artistically want to do. And I kind of just space doing it while sketching in pen. I do think that when I actually had the pen that I was using and relying on, I did feel a little bit more casual and in touch with the sketch a bit more. However, it does have a lot of mistakes as to kind of be expected with a pen drawing, and I just didn't feel like going in heavy-handed enough to kind of repair them, so it's a bit lopsided, and it's definitely not quite as strong as I wanted it to be, but I'm very, very happy with it as a ballpoint pen sketch with a little bit more brush pen on top, just to kind of fix some of the things that wasn't quite jiving with me. I think that it was a very good experience because I do try really hard to not shy away and consistently fail when it comes to drawing like full body poses in ballpoint pen. I kind of let my anxiety get the better of me that I'll mess up the proportions so bad and I'll bully myself for it, because I do have a really hard time with the torso to leg proportion when I'm working on it, and I generally require a lot of different sketches to achieve the look that I want. And with that, I generally do really, really bad the first couple times, and so I tend to embarrass myself when working in my own sketchbook. So, William, can you not fist fight the door? But I tend to just humiliate myself and bully myself about really bad anatomy, and so I'm kind of glad that I just kind of let my inhibitions go to the wind, and I actually did a pretty good job with the torso to leg ratio. And so I don't know, I really like the sketch. I really like both of them. This is kind of a nice spread. Even the kind of bad sketches that are lining up in the, nope, not bad sketches, the incomplete and poorly thought out sketches that are in the top left corners are kind of looking nice, and they feel kind of befitting of the overall kind of theme that I have going on. So I just really like it. I'm very, very happy, and I'm very excited that for the first time in a hot minute on my channel, I get to come to you guys with a video where I'm saying I really like the work I did. I very much like the sketches I completed. The ugly phase, while questionable, wasn't the worst in the world, and that I'm kind of like leaving my semester with the promise of just more excitement and positivity on my channel, because I do feel like I've been kind of not all there, kind of emotionally for a hot minute there. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention the weird Voldemort face coming out of the shoulder for shoulder pads. I didn't render it particularly well in either of my sketches, but that, like, ghastly face coming out of the shoulder pads, that's a power move. I don't know what victim that is supposed to represent, who they're supposed to represent, but I love the power and authority that having their face embossed as like a shoulder extender gives to the wearer of any suit ever. It's so nice. I really like both designs. So yeah. And if you like the type of game that Hades is, I highly recommend the Hades 2 demo. Really do. So I love it. Overall, I really appreciate you guys sitting all the way to the end of this video, indulging in my weird conversations and my nonsense and all of the random stuff I spew and theories and all of that stuff. There is nothing quite as remarkable as having a community that I get to engage with, who engage with me, and they like my art, and they sit here and they be creative and they do nonsense with me, and it really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate you guys sitting here. I got some of the fan art out of my system. It needed to happen. I wasn't going to be I wasn't going to be productively creative without doing it. It needed to happen, okay? It just needed to happen. I'm gonna be hard hyperfixating over Hades 2 for a while. I don't think I'll be making any more fan art in particular for my YouTube channel in terms of Hades 2 if it comes out of me naturally within the next time, but if it does, I will be sure to post it to Shorts or something, or make a community post, which I haven't done in a while, for you guys to be able to see it, or you could pop over to my Instagram. I sometimes post on Ko-fi. It's more so like blog updates and long artist statements that I'm doing over there, just because I tend to find that it supports longer text, and the only people who read it are people who care, so, you know, popping over there, better than reading it in a YouTube description. But all that nonsense aside, I really appreciate you guys. Subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.